Hi, and welcome to Emily Talks. This is Emily, and I am so stoked because today I get to do my first interview. I have with me Amy and Robert Nasir. They have a podcast that I love to listen to called 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir that is just full of these messages of self-love, of joy, of hope that they really impact my life. So having them on my channel just really jives with the message that I want to provide as well. So let's just kick it off with, can y'all tell me a little bit about your podcast?
Absolutely. Emily, thank you for having us on. Very much appreciated. And yeah, 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir started as just a passion project of mine. I left the IT field to pursue writing and podcasting and other things. And so I put this show together. In fact, I still have the original format sheet here. That's what it looks like. That's the outline of every show. And I call it a passion project because I didn't do a lot of research into what would make a podcast work. It was more, what do I want to see out there? Which is why the episode opens with "Happy Sunday, friends and lovers." Well, what the heck? You're not all my lovers out there. Well, if you've listened to enough of the episodes, hopefully the love comes through. And thank you for joining us. And I just couldn't resist putting my own, what I want to see out there. That's what I wanted to produce. And I can tell you, the show was originally called 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir, and Amy co-hosted it with me. And eventually, the pressure to add Amy's name to the title of the show was irresistible because it's as much her as it is me.
It's implied that I'm there and I'm an influence on it. Although Robert does most of the writing. I have written a couple of them, and but yeah, we talk about applied wisdom, applied philosophy, practical ideas that also integrate into a wider philosophy. And, but actually a little more background about us is that, we started preparing for this before the pandemic. It just so happened that we started it at the pandemic. So in March of 2020, that's when we first started it. And we had a unique approach to, Ayn Rand's philosophy of objectivism. And specifically, I have been the founder and runner of Great Lakes Objectivists for, I don't know how many years now, but at least 11 years, if not 12 or 13. And before that, we helped kind of run objectivist groups in the past. But so we've seen how a lot of objectivists run groups. We've seen, we've kind of carved out a way to do it ourselves, and it's a unique way, and it's very, very. It's not just understanding philosophy or wisdom or anything like that, but it's a dinner party. So that's Great Lakes Objectivists ran for a long time as a dinner party that grew into 7 conferences where we encouraged people to speak. That was based on Jen Casey and Kelly Elmore's model for AtlasCon in Atlanta, Georgia. And but we had a pretty unique way of running a group where it wasn't just a bunch of people talking ideas and soapboxing, getting on a soapbox, or trying to impress other people with their memorizations of definitions.
Yeah.
It was actually a talking about how we're applying ideas to our lives and how our lives are going. So it was part support group, and there was a lot of what our late friend David Feller would call a love fest, and everybody it was sort of like it just kind of became a mutual admiration society, which is it's a great way to support and praise friends who deserve it, and yourself, and to admire yourself for what you're doing. So it's been very positive. So so that frame of reference now is kind of the background and our approach in 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir, that it makes us a little different.
And I'm really glad that you brought up the part about how it used to just be 5 minutes with Robert and Nasir, and I nearly introduced it as that, and then I noticed the name had changed on the Facebook page, and I was like, oh yeah, I need to make sure that I update that, because I think that was only a few months ago that change was made.
Yeah.
And such an important part of how you guys deliver your message is that you have the dynamic together, so you show in real time what that love looks like. And it's not just like, first off, your relationship is beautiful. Like, if there was any ideal that I could have for a romantic relationship, it's y'all. Yeah. But the thing is that you take this message of the same kind of love and acceptance and you express it between each other so effortlessly, that you're also sharing with your audience, that makes it feel possible. It makes it, like if it were just Robert speaking on his own, I wouldn't have had the same impression.
Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. And, it's a bonus of doing it together is that, we talk about I talk a lot about a lot of the challenges I face. And we do with shows like this, with the kind of work that you do. But in this case, I also we get to show people, well, but here's what you're fighting for. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the important aspects of my personal philosophy is you can't fight what needs to be fought out there if you don't know, first and foremost, more important than all that, what are you fighting for? What are you trying to achieve? Why are we trying to save the world? Whether it's ideas or politics or anything else. And yet I see so much anger and criticism, and there are things that need to be fought out there, but people don't acknowledge, well, here's what we're fighting for. So I appreciate that. If you see some of that with the two of us, that's a good thing.
And this is actually a perfect segue into my next question is, what are the core values that drive your message?
Somebody asked me to sum up my philosophy in 5 words or less, and my answer only took 3 words. Mm-hmm. And my answer is values are primary. And I don't mean values as in, here are the values my preacher told me to live by. Here are the values my parents... No, I mean the actual things you value in your life. The actual experiences of this matters. This is a value. This is fun. This is important. And when I say values are primary, you think, well, of course, you're living to... But I know people who don't. They live as if their life is a constant need to be justified and surrounded by constant evils that need to be fought. Mm-hmm. So if I were going to sum up, what am I trying to put out there? Well, there's a lot. There's a list. I got a whole book. But values are primary. You are here to live a life and not just not suffer, not die. I don't want you to suffer. I don't want you to die. But that's not what you're here for. So that's what I try to get across.
I would say both justification, where people are constantly seeking justification, and catharsis, and trying to, find people to, what's the word? Basically, share their disappointments in life and what they find to be wrong with the world, and getting that kind of catharsis is a distraction to actually living your life.
Sometimes I think we would be even more popular. Not that I have any complaints about our audience, but if we spent more time complaining, more time grousing, more time talking about what's wrong with the world. And I get it. Yeah, people need to feel that I'm not alone. Other people get. I understand that, but there's so much of that out there. It's not what I need to do.
One of the ideas, I don't know if you've ever read the book by Julia Cameron called The Artist's Way. It's a really great book. Everyone should read it. And there's one concept in there that really struck me, because it's not just about, art. It's really a self-help book for artists. It's done pretty well. Is that Julia Cameron talks about the anxiety that you're comfortable with, that you feel like, so in other words, you are, you don't want to actually do anything with your life. You don't want to actually pursue your values or have dreams and goals or find things that'll make you happy. You're looking for a substitute for that action. You're looking, and so if you feel that, that compulsion to constantly complain and grouse, and that kind of, you have this level of anxiety that makes you feel like you're actually doing something. And in fact, you're not actually doing anything.
Right. Oh my goodness. I'll tell you,
complaining feels like doing something.
I was actually thinking about that in terms of my channel because, a lot of the things that I talk about come from experiences of conflict. But I don't want to focus on the conflict. Specifically, I think about channels that are based on healing from a narcissist relationship because, they tend to pop up a lot in my feed. And it always focuses on the conflict instead of on the resolution. And I feel like there's like this voyeurism that happens from that. And somewhere it's sort of with a mixture too of, pointing out the splinter in one person's eye versus ignoring the timber in your own, to borrow from a Christian, a Christian allegory there, or whatever you want to call it. But something else that was really important to me as I started to explore, like, what are my hierarchy of values, like what is actually important to me, is, a lot of times when we think about morality or values, it's a floating abstract, right? It's something that our higher power, like usually it's a religious sort of thing, has dictated what is important to us. Whereas actually pursuing our values is like, what are our everyday choices? And I feel like you really bring that into the podcast when you talk about, what am I doing right now? And it's with, the whole gamut of, what food am I going to choose to eat today? Am I creating art? The art on the sidewalk to just spread joy with everybody who comes by. There's a ton of little things in how you operate within the world that start with what I value is in every single decision that I make. It has nothing to do with who I want to please or who I want to be upset with.
Well, I do love a good piece of sidewalk chalk. And so many of the things we talk about, they're inspired by or borrowed from popular culture. And I hope that what we do is help ground these things. When people say, when Gandhi says, be the change you want to see in the world, it sounds a little woo and a little disconnected. It's almost like a call for self-sacrifice. But it turns out that, yes, when you live the way you want to see others in the world live, that room now has one more person who's at least doing that thing. And it can feel like self-sacrifice. It can feel like it's pointless or useless. But it turns out it's not. There's such power in that. So I appreciate that you see that, because it's exactly the point I want to make, that you are the most important person in the world. And, people immediately want to say, well, to you don't even need to add that bit at the end. We all know the context. Mm-hmm. But it really is true. You are, and your state of mind determines your experience of the world. That's not subjective. It's not non-objectivity. It's precisely objective. And you are the object. You are the center. You are the star, the director, the screenwriter of this film. So those little things like, writing on the sidewalk and, smiling at passersby, it's small, but in a way it's everything.
Right. Like, if only I had a board big enough, I could move the world like that. What was it, Archimedes who said that about having a lever? And, sometimes all it is that smile. I was actually talking to one of my good friends, Monica. Hi, Monica, if you're watching. She was experiencing some difficulties. And I was like, the change that we want to see is, changing ourselves and then sharing that. And I feel like that ties in. I'm probably going to bring in a ton of religious things because that's the background that I came from. But something that plays in my mind from that is acquire the light and 1,000 around you will be saved. And I feel like that light is that energy of love and joy and benevolence that comes out from just being a happy person who is in love with myself. Like, I love me. And that, is an imperfect journey for me, but one that's so worth my time and energy. And, when you talked about being that person in the room who is, happy and pursuing their values, that actually ties in perfectly again with the next thing that I want to do. What kind of impact do you want to have on the world?
I'll start here. Okay, so I love your analogy about, kind of being the light, and, the idea that, like your Robert's idea of smiling at people. It's not just color. You don't just smile at people just to color their world or to make their day. But, of course, you are hoping to get that kind of reciprocation. But you're coloring your world when you do that. So whenever you act in the way that you're, whoever you choose to be, whatever kind of person you want to be, you're going to be coloring your world. And you're going to find, of course, you're going to find people who are not receptive, but that's okay. They're on their own journey, as I often say. They're on their own journey. Mm-hmm. Not everybody has to share positive values, at the exact same moment that I am, and hopefully they'll figure it out. But in terms of what I want other people to know is, well, we talk about altruism mm-hmm. in Objectivism. Very, very fun, in a very interesting way. It's a very philosophical way. It's not in the way that people say, generous, but, being generous, generosity, benevolence, kindness, smile at people so that you can color your own universe and maybe give them a pep in their step too. It's altruism is the sense, it's a perspective. It's that morality should only be viewed through the lens of doing good for other people. Now, you might think, oh, that's nice, but there's some precursors to that. If you want to untangle that in a rational way, because if you're just viewing morality, which is basically how to live your life, and that's going to be good for your survival and your flourishing as an individual human being, there's going to take a lot more thinking than just, I'm just going to do what other people find pleasurable, mm-hmm. or obey what they ask of me to do for them. It's extremely important because we've seen this concept abused on a big, wide scale, in terms in political scales. That the kind of philosophy that in National Socialism, the kind of philosophy that the morality that Adolf Hitler based his politics on, the idea that you belong to the state, that you are not your own person, that morality should be always and without exception viewed only through the lens of what you can do for other people. It is a very dangerous trap to go down. And I would say that even in objectivist circles, in terms of people trying to deflect what they need to do for themselves in their own lives and trying to fight the good fight and win all the battles and, get angry at the world. That is a form of altruism, because what are you doing? You're trying to save
mm-hmm. That savior complex. Yes, I've seen that a lot in old school objectivists. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not it's absolutely antithetical to what Ayn Rand wrote about and what she actually meant. So it's just important, even on whether it's a very small personal scale or an extremely large political one. There's more to morality than the lens of what you do for other people. Mm-hmm. Because you have to ask yourself, what are the actions that I need to take as a cognitive, volitional human being to survive and flourish in my life first? And, many people accept the idea of altruism because they think, well, of course, everybody has values that extend to other people. Of course, the other people are values. And you should do nice things to those who you value. It's when people don't really think very deeply about it, and then they listen to other people without question. So they don't question authority, as my T-shirt says.
I love it. I love it. I'll try to make sure you're flipped in the right way so they can see it.
Oh, it's okay. It says question authority on it. So, that's when people start really suffering, and that's when horrible things happen, whether that's on a small personal scale, whether that's, a domestic abuse sort of situation, or a political situation.
Well, and, that really makes me think of the thing that Ayn Rand says that I'm just so in love with this, is I can't say I love you without first saying I. And so what I'm kind of hearing here is that the impact that you want is for people to see themselves first as their highest value, and then share that joy from, first having that goodness on the inside that's just spilling over to others, instead of saying, well, I need to look at others first. And that's actually the experience that I was raised with personally, that I felt that, and I truly love making people smile. It's something that's really beautiful about my natural makeup, that, these wires got crossed where I was thinking to myself, there's no good thing about me unless I'm creating good in somebody else's life. And my morality was based on that. My values were based on that. And I found that I was no good to anyone else if I wasn't first good to myself. And that's a really powerful message. And that's the most important impact that you could have on anyone, is to let them see that first, anytime that you go to say, I love you, you must first be able to say I.
Yes, absolutely. Anything you want to add on to that, Robert?
Well, the question was about our personal philosophy.
Okay.
And the two tenets that I always bring up, the first one was values are primary. You're here to live a life and not just not die. You're here to actually find the things that you love and then capitalize on that. And the other one is that your life is an end in itself. And that idea is foreign to a lot of people. And even the people who think that they accept that tenet don't live like they really believe it. But your life is an end in itself. You're not born in hoc. You don't need to justify yourself above and beyond living the best life you can, doing what you can to support your values, the people you care about, and the needs you have in your own life. Your life is an end in itself. You don't require any external justification. So you're right. When you say, I love you, what are you saying? You're saying, this person, me, cares about this other person or this other thing. And that is everything. Now you think, well, but there's so much more to life. You pick on altruism, but, don't people feel noble when they self-sacrifice? The only reason people feel noble when they do a quote-unquote self-sacrifice is because they are living up to their own highest values. When they do something for somebody they care about, or to follow through on their own values, their own promises. Think of people in the military. They are living their own values. Your life is an end in itself. And that is part of the message I want to get out there. And I don't just want to tell people that. I want the wisdom that we have all been exposed to support that. So, you notice I'm not talking as much about Ayn Rand or Objectivism. That is my philosophy, but I want people to get that firsthand. What do we mean when people say people are on their own journey? What we're saying is, I can't tell you what to think or how to get to the conclusions I'm telling you. I can only help you on your own. Why are you on your own journey? Why can't I just tell you here's what's right? Because it doesn't mean anything if it's second-handed. You've got to think, firsthand by your own honest convictions, oh yeah, this is the way it is. This is the way life is. This is the way I want to be. When we say somebody's on their own journey, we're saying they've got to think firsthand. They've got to reach those conclusions on their own. Even if I'm right and they're wrong, it does no good if they don't think those things themselves for themselves. So yeah, to say I love you, you've got to be able to say the I. But what does it mean to be able to say the I?
Yeah, and I'm going to tie in here. I did a video, I don't know, yesterday, the day before, about positive affirmations, and I was actually talking to you about this, Robert, before we went and recorded. So I'm going to link that down in the description. But, any of these things, what it means to have a secondhand idea is that we're just parroting somebody else. We're listening to ideas from somebody else, and we don't truly, or I don't truly integrate it. And that was something that I ran into a lot with positive affirmations, because they feel really wishy-washy if I don't truly believe them. And something that happens in the, perspective of positive affirmations and therapists and people who endorse them is that, it comes from this place of not thinking deeply or caring deeply about ideas and just hoping that repetition is going to replace our deep-seated core values. And that's not true. I cannot repeat a message so much that I believe it. I can reinforce messages so that I can create a stronger neural connection, which talking about neural networks is something that I repeatedly bring up in my channel, because that's the point of my entire channel, is to create new connections in our brains and create healing through that. So, this term of second-handedness happens so much throughout, the positivity movement, because sometimes these messages aren't genuinely coming from our own hearts and our own minds. And that is essential for growth, because it's my neural networks that are going to be impacted. And in order to make that, I have to change my brain. So, I'm really glad that you brought that up about second-handedness, because it's pervasive everywhere. You see it in a lot of different places. So, yeah.
Well, if you'll let me expand
please.
on that for a moment, I'll drop another bomb. Let me drop a bomb you might not have ever heard before. I don't think I've even ever said this on this show before. The topic of self-love comes up, especially when we talk about positivity. But we also know what toxic positivity is. When you go to somebody who's going through, for example, a grief experience, and you say, well, don't worry, you're going to be happy again. You should try to be happy right now, because you're going to be happy again. It's the worst thing you can say to somebody. Toxic positivity. So on one of our shows, when I've talked about love, I've said, love is an emotion. You take that definition, and love is your emotional response to your values. But love is also, in that sense, it's an evaluation. And there are people in your life that you love deeply, that you will never stop loving, but who you don't feel the love for in the moment. When something goes bad, when they do something bad, or when you're in a bad state, you've got to accept that. And if you want to make a relationship work, you need to be able to know in any given moment that even though I don't feel love right now for this person, I do love them. I love them deeply. You've got to have the evaluation even when you don't feel the emotion. That it's knowledge. It's something you know about the world. Something I know about the world is I love this person. I don't feel it right now, but I'm not going to let that change the fact that I know I love this person. I'm never going to hurt this person. I'm never going to, and I'm not going to feel guilty about not feeling the love in this moment, because I know circumstances will do that. But I know I love this person. Now here's the bomb. Here's the bomb I'm going to drop on you right now, Emily. If you can know in your gut, in your core, throughout your brain, even though you don't feel it in your heart at the moment, that you love somebody, even if you don't feel it in the moment, apply that to self-love. You have got to have a pervasive sense of, oh my God, I love myself. And I don't mean as an emotion, although that's great. If you can make yourself feel the love for yourself, great. But you have got to know pervasively, I really care about myself. I want the best for I actually have good intent toward myself, even when I hate myself. And that will get you through a lot, because it's not just empowering, it's true. It's a fact. It's reality. And not everybody knows it. Not everybody can make it real to themselves. But that is something we all need. You have got to know you're fighting for yourself. Even when you don't feel it, you got to know.
Right. Because I love that concept of love being bigger than an emotion. It's also knowledge, because that is so true. The particular mental health issue that I deal with, a pervasive symptom is extreme emotions and black and white thinking. So when I'm feeling an emotion on one end, even though it's an emotion that's not based on facts, it's so overwhelming and consuming that it's very difficult for me to imagine the world in any other way but through those particular lenses of that emotion at that time. So relying on the facts of what I've invested in, is particularly with love or with boundaries and discernment, and not relying on the emotional landscape of how I'm currently doing. I think that's a really powerful message, and turning that inward. That's exactly what my channel is about. So let's, moving into the next topic, who's your ideal audience?
My ideal audience, people who want to live and love and be happy. And that sounds silly, but I did a whole episode recently on my weekday show, because there are prerequisites to happiness, and one of them is you've actually got to want to be happy. Now, that sounds crazy. Everybody wants to be happy. Some people aren't happy, but they want to be happy. There are some people out there who want to hold on to their baggage, who want to keep their grudges, who consider it to be an injustice to be happy because there's so much evil in the world. I'm not saying everybody who doesn't want to be happy is necessarily a rotten person, but my audience is the people who do want to be happy. Even if they're not happy, they want to overcome the obstacles. They want the wisdom that allows them to achieve a greater level of happiness. Those are my people, the people of good intent. What we talk about, goodwill. The holidays are coming up. That's my favorite thing about the season, is goodwill. People want what is good for each other. But just like I talked about self-love, you need to be able to turn that back on yourself. You need to actually have goodwill for yourself. So it's surprising that people who want to be happy, people who want to live, it's not everybody. Some people are so angry
the way that I would characterize somebody who wants to live is somebody who wants to engage with the world using the most powerful tool that they have, which is their ability to reason, their ability to grasp reality, understand exactly what is true, what is fantasy, and who are not satisfied with just the surface level thinking that they may have accepted from their parents or from the people around them, who want to dig a little bit deeper and question, why is this? How is that? The people who aren't afraid to, when the teacher asks them, does anybody have any questions, or the lecturer or whoever it is, that they will have the courage to raise their hand, and even if they think they're asking a stupid question, to ask it.
Well, those are two very different answers from us, but we are two different people.
I think that they still, it gives a full picture.
Yeah, I'm expanding on it. The idea of, it's going back to objectivism again. The three major values in Ayn Rand's philosophy is reason, using your rationality, using your ability to grasp reality, and also to take those concepts, integrate them, and introspect and process everything, and go deeper with your thinking. Purpose, which is how are you going to sustain your life in a way that you find enjoyable? It's very, very surface level definition of that, and then and self-esteem. self-esteem is a value, is a value. And it's not just something that you have just because it falls into your lap, but something you work for, something you work towards, something that you need to explicitly recognize in yourself to give yourself the praise that you deserve. And pride being a virtue in that sense. We have a puppy, Mina, down here is hopefully will not be tripping over anything as she is sauntering about the living room. I kind of
wanted her to come and say hello at some point during here because dogs are joy. Dogs are joy.
Well, now that I mentioned her, and here she is. Here's Mina, the King Charles Cocker Spaniel. Oh, yes.
So I want to tie in something that you both were talking about is, and something that I think is really going to be impactful for my viewers here, you who have come to join in with us, is SI. And I can't actually say what that word is without getting flagged on YouTube. So I'm going to be using the term SI. If you don't know what it is, check out the description. By the way, I will also be including all of the links for stuff that Amy and Robert have talked about. So check out those links. They're going to be down below. But yeah, SI or not having that primary value of my own life, right? I struggle with that particular thing often because of the experiences that I have. There are times when I don't have access to my rational mind or even this present moment. PTSD flashbacks are kind of like that, where I am placed back into a scenario and an age and a mindset that is not currently happening. And, knowing that my greatest tool is my power of reason, of taking in all of my senses and aligning them with my, with achieving my values, and then the emotions that creates within me to, feed back into that and make it feel wonderful and great. If my mind isn't working, I have lost that capability within myself, and that feels like a deep injustice. I want to be very, very clear with my viewers is that if you feel that your life isn't worth it because you're in pain or some other thing, there's some deep injustice, that is not actually avoiding responsibility for your life. That is response to a frustration with not being able to truly and happily pursue what you want in life. And what I really want to reinforce is that at the bottom level of all of that is the desire to live a happy life in touch with your mind and emotions, in touch with this particular moment. And that is the core value. Who you are and what you want out of life does not become less perfect or less beautiful because you struggle with experiences that make you feel that continuing on isn't the right option. I think that a really important thing to differentiate is, and often I feel so upset by these types of people, people who they've got all of these comfortable things, but what drives them is upset. They have to find something to be upset about, and that is the value that they pursue. There's not a moment where they can stop and say, you know what, I'm sitting at this table of bounty with people who are like-minded to myself, that I enjoy, they enjoy me, we spend our time together. There are people who will show up to that situation and all they can do is complain about the state of that terrible gravy. It's just so mind-blowing.
Yeah. And I try not to condemn for that because I know there are reasons for that. But it's why I mentioned earlier the idea of toxic positivity. I don't ever want to be simplistic or make somebody feel guilty because they don't feel positive when they think they should. As if there's some emotional duty to not feel these things or to carry these burdens. As I say, there are prerequisites to happiness, but that doesn't mean that everybody out there who's got some kind of baggage, and it can be extreme. It can be to the point of feeling a desire for self-harm. I don't ever want to add any burdens or guilt to that. I certainly want to be a small part of helping people find their way out. But, at some point when it becomes that significant, I'm the wrong guy for the job, and I would want people to seek professional help for that. Mm-hmm. But I do want to acknowledge that, positivity is not always the answer, or rather, sometimes it's only a small part of the answer.
Yes. Yeah, my thought on that is that, as I mentioned earlier, the idea of the anxiety that they're comfortable with. So there's anxiety that comes from from looking at, trying to find distractions, trying to find things that will make you feel like you're actually doing something, you're producing something, that you're thinking about something or solving something. And then there's, actually looking at your life, which can be a whole lot more anxiety inducing depending on where you're at in life. But that, if you choose that kind of uncomfortableness, it's going to actually grow into something better. It's going to grow into self-esteem, self-worth, and it's going to have you grow as a person, as a human being. But yeah, I agree with Robert. Yeah, your emotions. I have a T-shirt that says, "Your emotions are valid."
I love that.
and they're not valid for where you just kind of passively or unthinkingly act on them, perhaps. But they are extremely they're extreme value to you in the sense it's telling you what you're evaluating in that particular whatever thing that you're experiencing, or idea that you're having trouble with, or whatever emotion that you're feeling in response to whatever it is. Those emotions are metaphysical. They are physical feelings in your body, and they are real. They're valid. And it's just an indication. It's a guidepost to tell you need to think about this deeper and ask yourself, what is giving the rise to this emotion? What are the thoughts and experiences giving rise to those emotions? And then you can actually deal with it. You can actually have something concrete to work with, a lot less intangible than just fleeting emotions. But yeah.
The great thing about emotions is they tell you there's something you need to know.
Yeah.
The bad thing about emotions is they don't tell you what it is that you need to know.
Not right away.
So,
it takes
not
a
right
lot of
away.
introspection,
Unfortunately,
right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, there are people who've cataloged the emotions. Jean Maroney, Edith Packer. There's some great introspection skill workshops out there that will tell you if you're feeling fear, it's because you feel that one of your values is under threat. Or if you're feeling anger, it's because you feel that one of your values is being assaulted or being taken away from you. If you're feeling love, you're responding to something that matters out there, something of value to you. So there are ways to go through the different kinds of emotions, and even complex emotions like anxiety, the feeling of loss of self-control. So I heartily recommend that if you want to learn to read your own mind, read your own heart.
It'll be in the description, and I am actually going to do a video really, really soon on Hello Emotion, which will talk about how to greet your emotions, how to welcome them in as honored guests, listen to them. The listening part is what Robert is talking about, and I'm going to link that in the description, so check it out. But as far as how to go through the process of introspection with your emotions, there is a really simple way to do that. So be on the lookout for that video. It looks like you were going to say something, Amy, though. I don't want to interrupt.
Oh, I don't know exactly how tangential we want to have this interview, but I just have a lot of
Go for it. I'm so excited. So,
well, I mean, I'll share with you the fact that I've been through at least some level of PTSD in my life, and from past traumas when I was a teenager, traumas 10 years ago after my mom passed away. All sorts of interesting emotional contexts that funny enough, just seem to be there for the taking anytime I want them. And so I could feel viscerally horrible.
Consuming.
It's like, so it's all consuming, so it's no fun. But I have to, it's something that one of the things I learned, I was having anxiety, like panic attacks, not just anxiety, panic attacks when I was in my late 30s or something anyway. And I learned how to deal with those. And I know I read somewhere that I try to, close my eyes, breathe, and try to see myself in an aerial view and look down at myself and try to gain that perspective as a scientist would gain a perspective of somebody who's going through this. This is the emotions that I'm feeling. Yes, this is a fact. And try to gain that sort of aerial view perspective so that you have something to kind of latch onto so you're not constantly swimming or spiraling down. So I've had some real life experiences with those sorts of thoughts and experiences, that mind-body connection of how your experiences in life, traumas in life, and how your emotions integrate with all of that, and how, I tell myself, Amy, you know what, your body and your mind, they want to keep living. And they want to keep telling you and reminding you what you should be avoiding. And that's why I have those readily available opportunities to experience past traumas.
What other people would call triggers.
Because my yes, triggers or however. But but it's like, it's okay to have those. You're not unusual. You're not the first person. There's many people out there who are having the same or worse, and it's okay. It's a natural process, and there is a mind-body integration, and this is how this manifests, and it's going to be all right, and it's something that you can actually deal with. You can work with it. You can welcome it as a special guest.
Ask it what it has to say and then see it out. Yes. I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent too. We're almost wrapping up, which kind of makes me a little sad. We haven't quite hit the 1 hour mark, but I could talk to you guys forever because I love your ideas. So if any of you are friends with me on Facebook, which is kind of a treat because I don't add people willy-nilly, and my Facebook is not open to the public. But, the little blurb that you could say about yourself for me is actually an Ayn Rand quote that says, check your premises. So there's something about anxiety that my little brother and we have this very, very deep, close relationship. We were both healing from significant trauma, and the way that we found a path to healing was Objectivism, which is the philosophy that I have. It's the philosophy that Robert and Amy have, and it's the tenets by which I am sharing all of the ideas through my channel. It does not mean that you need to identify with Objectivism or accept any of these things, but it connects me with reality. And something that we were talking about experiencing anxiety is when you hold two contradicting ideas. And it's the friction that those two contradictions make, because you cannot hold two contradicting ideas at the same time. Like, I am a piece of crap human being and I love myself. You can't have both of those at the same time. You need to be able to accept one or the other. And that leads, I'm going to give the full quote from Ayn Rand, which is, contradictions do not exist. If you feel that you are facing a contradiction, check your premises. You'll find that one of them is wrong. So maybe I'm not a piece of crap human being. Maybe I'm just worthy of love. So, on that wonderful note, I would like for y'all to share a message for our viewers today. Can you do that for me?
Sure. Do you want the two-page version or the one-paragraph version?
As your heart desires.
I'm tempted to read the whole thing, but instead I'll send people to my Substack where my manifesto is printed. But what I would say is, I love there's a joke, a meme, a picture. It's an old comic. Philosophy department at a university, the door of the professor's office, and there's a sign there that says, "Why are you here?" And usually you would expect a sign that says, "You are here." And my point would be, you are here right now. Thank you for listening to this interview. Thank you for following the work that Emily does. She's opening herself up to you in ways that, most of us, we give you a little bit. Emily gives you a lot. So thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. You are here now. And more than that, you have a right to be here. It is right that you are here wherever you are, right, as much as anybody else who has ever lived. Anybody else in the world, anybody else there will ever be, you have a right to pursue and experience joy and pleasure and passion and meaning and purpose and excitement and commitment and peace of mind and love. You are the star of this show. You are the director. You are the script writer. You get to make this whatever you want. Now, we all know we're all facing obstacles. Some of us are facing the kind of obstacles that, those lucky people without trauma can't even imagine. And to say, oh, you get to do with that whatever you want. I know, I don't want to make that sound overly light. But it is true that you are an end in yourself. Your life is an end in itself. You have been gifted a life, even if it doesn't feel like a gift sometimes. You can do with it what you like. You have that, and you even have the right every now and then to shut down. Say, no, I'm taking a break. It's your life. You're the star. And I, just some guy out there on the internet, some guy with a YouTube show. But yet, I'm pretty bright. And I honor that in you. And I hope you feel that as much as you can, as often as you can.
Well, what Robert said there is hard to follow up with. I mean,
I'm often hard to follow.
But I'll just say, never, I'll say this. If you're a conscientious person, if you're a person who finds themselves digging a little deeper in their thinking or are curious about people and ideas and the world and life and the universe and everything, first of all, make sure you give yourself credit for that value that you hold. It's extremely important that you keep it and keep processing ideas and things and people and everything that you come across in your life first-handedly. Process it by your own thinking, your own mind. No one is going to be offended, except for psychopaths, if you do your own thinking and you don't just obey what they say. And be kind and gentle to yourself. You are the only you that you have. And, at the end of the day, there's a lyric from an old Henry Rollins song. I'm a punk rocker, FYI. Robert's a bit of a hippie. And I've gone through a lot of periods of cynicism in my life. But there's a really excellent, highly recommended song that he did called Low Self-Opinion. You should listen to it or read the lyrics at least if you can't stand the music. Yes. But there's a lyric that says, at the end of the day, all you have is yourself and your mind. And I wouldn't put it that way. I would say, all that you have is yourself and your mind. Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful?
Yes. It sounds a little isolating, so I would add, if you have that, you have everything and everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but it's a good song. And, yeah. So be good to yourself.
Be good to yourself.
Yes.
You deserve
that's
that.
That's what I'm going to
So,
say.
I cannot say enough wonderful things about Robert and Amy. I hope that you guys have gotten the same message. Robert actually brought up another thing that made me think of. I'm going to link also a poem down in the description that I had from one of my distress tolerance patient programs about having a space carved out in the universe that's only meant for you. That, no two people or no two objects can occupy the same space at the same time. And everywhere that you have been, you are, and that you're going to be, has already been placed and left in that space just for you. No other thing is going to occupy that space except for you. And that space has already prepared itself for you to be there, and it's yours. So it's a super beautiful message. I hope that you guys check out all of the wonderful things and links. I'm really excited to actually connect with some of the things. Amy talked about a book on art, and then Robert talked about understanding the emotions. There's going to be a ton of really cool things. And I meant to do this at the beginning of the interview here, but I'm learning. If I could be able to sum up the concept of what 5 Minutes with Robert and Amy Nasir is, it is a Sunday sermon for spiritual atheists. Come around, join us. We are here to share love, benevolence, and joy. And they are super awesome. So in the description, you're also going to find links to their YouTube, to their Facebook page, and also to their personal pages. Give them a follow. The types of discussions that go on in their posts are just wonderful. You'll meet some great people who are on the same journey as we are. And it's just a wonderful place of love. Thank you so much for joining us today. Y'all enjoy the rest of your week. And see